I don't know that I'll ever not be hands-on. I think it's really just my personality. The thing that people don't realize is how much work goes in behind the scenes. The butchery is beautiful, but there needs to be, I think, a greater understanding of what it takes to get food to plates. My day usually starts, check my emails, check Slack, hope that something didn't go wrong with a truck or a slaughterhouse or a farmer. And if that's not the case, then I'm off to the start of a great day. I pretty much try to start my days at HQ. It's a 6,000 square foot facility. There's a lot of things going on here. It's where everything starts and finishes. Hi, Jeanette. Morning, chef.
Hello.
All right. Definitely one of the most important things is to be on top of inventory every day and how the meat's looking. Come on in. All of our meat is sourced directly from local farmers that I have individual relationships with. They know from when the animal was born that it's raised for Primal Supply, and when it's at market weight, it's gonna go to the slaughterhouse. We receive a delivery every week from our slaughterhouse, approximately 6 whole beef every week and 12 whole hogs every week. We've still got 4 beef tenderloins remaining out of the original 12 that we received. These are the short rib plates. We had 12 of these to start. It looks like we're through about half of them. So I work with the slaughterhouse, and I actually reserve and hold all of the slots that Primal Supply will need. The different farmers on my schedule, they just simply show up at the slaughterhouse on the date that they're scheduled, and they go back to their farm and they focus on farming. So the pork was over here. You can see the magnificent wall of heads. This is a rack of all of the pork rib loins. Those are the short loins. Got lots of whole pork bellies down here. Our beef take 2 years to raise to market weight. The pigs could take anywhere from 8 to 12 months depending on the season. You know, what do I think that I need now? What do I think I need 6 months from now? What do I think I need 1 to 2 years from now? And that's an ongoing and constant conversation with myself and the farmers. Within the week, it's really interesting to watch this space swell. This is the beating heart of everything, where it comes and goes. So let's go into the cut room and see where they're at. Open gently. So the cut room at HQ is definitely a major hub of activity. There's so much planning and so much work that happens in that room every day. This is kind of how our stuff comes from the slaughterhouse. Like, that's just the entire beef shank. That's why the name Primal exists. Like, when you take a whole animal and you break it into kind of its initial parts, they're called primal cuts, so that we still have a lot of flexibility about how we butcher them. This is like a very complicated spreadsheet that we use for our cut orders. They know that they need to use 5 of these today to produce 25 single pork chops to fill Butcher's Club shares. And then for the web store, it's like we're sold out of whole pork butts, so we're gonna prep some of those today. Some spare ribs because we've been sold out of them and we just got more in from the farm and slaughterhouse. This is our process and the way that we'll work through the day in here. We're raising pasture-raised animals. They're gonna be consistently inconsistent, but we're still trying to kind of keep them within a spec. So Autumn is going to start with something like this that has like way more of a fat cap than a typical customer would want, and then portion them down to something beautiful like this, which is like exactly the amount of fat that you want on a pork chop. But we do end up with all of this. This is like the excess fat that's being cut off of those pork chops. That's what we'll grind, that's what will pass to the kitchen, and that becomes lard so that that doesn't become waste for us. I like to keep 3 knives. The first, and like my desert island butcher knife, if I had to only choose one, it's this. So I always have a 6-inch bony knife. It's semi-flexible. You can kind of like use a little pressure and it'll sort of follow the thing a little bit more. This is called a breaking knife. It's really nice with larger things to be able to have a knife that's like this one, but longer, so I can get in and like cut the whole way through something. And then this knife, which I guess is technically a scimitar, it is big. I like big knives. For cutting large steaks, I can get into it and I can draw with one solid knife movement. You know, the best butchery is like your knife is invisible. And then this is something called a bone scraper. When you cut bones with a saw, it creates something that we call bone dust. So this tool is pretty cool. You just kind of run it along it. You can see how it just kind of picks it up in the gaps and takes that bone dust off of the meat. But yeah, so if I was just kind of setting myself up for success for the day, these are all the tools that I'd have on the station. This whole animal craft butchery is something that there is not a lot of. So since starting Primal Supply almost 5 years ago, I've actually trained a lot of butchers. That's Yali. Yali has trained with us from green, knowing nothing. So they can definitely cut and finish all of the parts and pieces, but we haven't worked on the whole animal thing. So we're gonna just like spend a little time working on that today. So when we start with a whole animal and we break it down into kind of the largest possible parts and pieces, they're called primal cuts. So on a pork, we have 4 primals: a leg, which is a ham, a shoulder, the top half of it is the loin, and the bottom half is the belly. Ugh. Before we break this into the primal, I'm just gonna do one thing, which is to remove the tenderloin. This is the most tender muscle in the body because it doesn't really do anything. Americans, we equate convenience and tenderness with value. It's the money right here. I can find the natural seams between the muscles. See, I'm just like barely even using my knife. I'm just sort of pulling this out. So this is like the most valuable part of the pork is this top. The loin is where all the money is. The subprimals are gonna be a rib loin, a center cut, or short loin, and sirloin, or like quite literally end of the loin, right? Butchery is hard. It takes some time for your right hand to learn where your left hand is. It's like learning choreography. There's 10 steps, you know. First you remove this, then you debone this. And all the time as you're doing this in whole animal butchery, you're also trying to piece together, you know, this anatomy. So now we have our 3 primals. So really like we've got our strip loin, our short loin, and our rib loin. I bet Autumn's cutting a short loin today, yeah. Using a boning knife, removing all of these bones, you get down to this single barrel of a muscle. And that's exactly what they're making this into. They're tying these into loin roasts. So yeah, we start with this and we end up with this like gorgeous tray of cuts. A lot of times as we're working through the day, like we're just trying to kind of get through the cut list and we'll keep bins under the table. This is our waste. We do save a lot of fat and render it, but the stuff that's exposed on the outside. And then he's got some bones, you know, so we can remove the meat between them, but then we'll cut these down on the bandsaw into smaller pieces that are roastable, and these will end up in the kitchen. This is all the trim. This is something that we'll go through it and we'll double check the fat ratio. We want it to be 80-20 meat to fat. And this ultimately will become our ground beef. We produce tons of this. Off of like an 800-pound beef, we could generate up to 200 pounds of trim. So we make all of our sausage in-house as whole animal butchers. The trim that comes from pork and beef. We are making fresh sausage almost every day. I'm sourcing about 6 whole beef every week. They average about 700 pounds per carcass. The usable part of that animal is maybe 70%. Our chef Damon is probably one of my most important team members, always managing the meat. He's intentionally creating to help us use things that wouldn't otherwise sell in a high enough volume fresh. So we also have this cooked inventory of product.
Working with a butcher as opposed to a restaurant's great because all the meat is as fresh as it could possibly be. It's coming like direct from the source. And I can also troubleshoot with them a little bit. If I wanted a little fattier or a little less fatty, ground just a little different, you know, it's kind of like immediate result.
We generate so much of these kind of byproducts that if we didn't have a kitchen, it would be really hard not to waste them. The broth trend is the best thing that could ever happen to a whole animal butcher.
Making a beautiful beef stock. So we roast off trays and trays of bones. About an hour and a half in the oven, and then we do them overnight. And we end up with about 40 to 60 quarts of beef stock a week. So I'm rendering out pork fat, rendering it into nice clean lard. This is a small batch. Oftentimes the butchers will generate this pot full of just pork fat. And then we sell it in large format for wholesale customers, and we sell it in 16-ounce containers for retail customers.
The tallow is beef fat, the lard is pork fat, and the tallow does tend to have this, it's more like a coconut oil or something, right, when it's cold. And the pork fat tends to be softer. Anything I cook, I start with this. We do have customers that come and shop at this location, and we open at noon on weekdays, so we're just kind of like in the final steps of making sure that everything is pretty and set for the day. These are the types of things that come out of the kitchen. Meatballs and pasta sauce and chili, these are all things that use like ground beef broth as a base. All right, so we're headed to the South Philly Butcher Shop. It's pretty important to me that as many days as possible I can get down there and just kind of check in and see what's happening and make sure they feel supported. We are able to cut meat to order on site at this location, which we love. Kind of just realized that we needed a place to connect to customers in person. Anything else? So he's got actually a beef flap. It's quite literally the belly of the beef, and we get 2 muscles and steaks off of this. What he's actively peeling out right now is a flank steak. Smooth, long grain, pretty lean. Most people know a flank steak, it's definitely desirable. There's only one of these on each side of a beef. So the other muscle that he's gonna pull out of this is called the bavette. And we're always trying to teach customers about alternative cuts. Not everybody knows a bavette. It's actually a really awesome steak. It kind of looks like a really big skirt steak, or maybe like a skirt steak and a hanger steak had a baby. So everybody's gonna walk in and ask, if we have like ribeyes and strip steaks, but you can introduce them to top sirloin, or you can talk to them about some of the lesser known things like copa steaks or ranch steaks. Some of my farmers joke that they talk to me more than other people in their lives. Because we're all busy, we're all business owners, and we're all small businesses, and we're trying to kind of support each other. They're looking at an animal on the ground, and I'm looking at a carcass or a piece of meat. We focus on genetics, we think about feeding and diet. They're working so hard on those inputs, but they don't know what it's producing. So I can let them know if it's successful or if it's unsuccessful, and I can give them that feedback that they need to improve. All right, we're headed back to Brewery Town HQ. This afternoon, the butchers have been cutting all day, so we've got a ton of meat here moving into the packaging station that we're gonna check in on. As the butchers work throughout the day, they will just continually rack up cuts on these speed racks and get these guys into packages. We've got pork sirloin steaks, we've got some beef baseball steaks, we've got some beef shanks, pork loin roast, some pork copa steaks. Some things that are more like, these are 1-pound bags of beef stir fry. They'll get bagged here, they run through the machine, they get sealed. So everything gets its final packaged label that includes a lot of information for us. It's the identification, it's the day that it was packed so that we can track how many days it's been in vacuum seal for freshness. So we guide our customers to use it within a certain date. And then obviously the pound weight and price. We do a lot of meat math around here, and we try to collect as much data as possible because it's really helpful for us to be on top of exactly how many steaks we yield on average out of a muscle and be able to plan distribution to all of the programs and locations. I have never existed in the industrial commodity meat system. I just really don't know another way. I came into Butchery because I wanted to find new ways to improve and support a local supply chain that supports pasture-based farmers. So I worked really hard since the start of Primal Supply to kind of diversify our market. Our Butchers Club is basically, it's kind of modeled off of a CSA, this idea that our customers commit to an ongoing subscription where they want to get a box of meat every week. It's super cool for us because we have several hundred members in the program. As we're bringing meat in, that a certain amount of it is, no matter what, it's already sold, it's already basically reserved by these customers. We do tend to prioritize them. I like to reward their commitment to us by making sure that they get some of the better stuff, So basically we're down to all of the parts that are left after we've extracted the merchandisable cuts. So now Autumn is going through all of this and turning everything into trim. We definitely count on restaurants having burgers and ground beef because, the trim and the use of ground beef is definitely what makes our world go round. Some of the smaller, higher end fine dining restaurants might buy beef loins to cut into high-end steaks. So I'll work a lot with local chefs who are looking to have locally raised traceable meat on their menus, but it's a lot of work for them to bring whole animals into the restaurant. So they can participate in our whole animal program by sourcing primals and subprimals from us. So it's the end of the day here, pretty much cleaning and wrapping, breaking everything down, getting all the meats put back away and into their places to go to sleep for the night. Everybody walks through and says goodbye to me and walks out the door and goes home, and I'm like, thanks, see you tomorrow.